Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that has surfaced, and it's getting a little interesting, right? It's definitely getting a little interesting. I do find it funny, right, just in general, that people are, like, consoling me about a fictional character, you know? I just think that's just a little funny. You know, like, man, sorry about what happened, dude. Just to summarize what is happening and what's going on, you know, the majority of the roster for Street Fighter 6 was pretty much leaked. It's everywhere now. And the reason I'm just a little bit more comfortable with talking about this situation, because normally I wouldn't want to touch this leak stuff with the 10-foot pole, is that it could actually lead to detrimental situations for, like, everybody, right? It could eventually, like, really mess up marketing efforts or much less people's channels, right? If you start talking about this leak stuff and then people start reporting on it and then they don't realize it and then they report on it and, oh God, like, Capcom comes after your ass and it's, like, really bad. That sort of changed over the past 24 hours because of a couple of key tweets and who they came from. And I'll sort of use this as reference. And by the way, like, granted, this isn't a new history for Capcom. And I feel really bad because I know a lot of people, like, you have to understand, right? You have to understand that over some time, the game is going to be out. And that time is kind of great, right? It might be like 9 months, it might be a year between the game coming out. And what essentially do fighting games use as their marketing gimmick, right? How do they market their game from the reveal to launch? What do they have to use, right? What is their tools of marketing? Reveals, character reveals, like literally showing you who's going to be in the game, hoping people will be excited, and then they come back and they're excited, right? What essentially happened as a result of this, because the leak was so widespread and so many people have seen it, and now official websites are reporting on it. It's everywhere and anywhere, that a lot of the efforts of all the characters going forward until release is essentially spoiled, right? They do not have that anymore. Granted, I still think the actual, right, us figuring out who's in the game is essentially gone, but finding out what they will look like in the game, to me, is even more important. Eventually seeing what they will be like in the RE engine next to the characters that we've already seen, how that art style, because if there's one thing we already know as far as looking at the characters we have seen so far and their concept art, the concept art in comparison is way different, right? The concept art in Street Fighter 5 is way different than what they look like in game. And that's an unfortunate reality with a lot of Capcom games and 3D models. They just look a lot different. But the big thing that we don't know, right, that they do get to essentially use is the fact that we don't know what these characters do, right? At least, like, having characters do new and surprising things in trailer format will be a big deal for a lot of people. The other benefit that Capcom has with this entire leak situation is that it was good, you know? Sometimes leaks come out. In the case of the previous game that Capcom had, where their entire roster essentially got leaked very early on, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And the leak essentially, like, destroyed a big part of the game and its marketing efforts because the leak was true and it was bad. It was essentially revealing the fact that DLC characters were going to be story characters, right? And it was also revealing the fact that there was no X-Men in the game. A lot of the things that people were worried about were essentially confirmed from leakers, and it was a problem. It was setting up the game for a lot of really bad press that followed it all the way until launch. I mean, did the game essentially deserve it? Well, kinda, right? They made some pretty bad decisions as far as, like, character roster. But this situation's a lot different because guess what? The roster's pretty sick. They dedicated a whole bunch of space in the Street Fighter 6 roster, at least from what we can tell, to new characters. They dedicated a huge portion of space to the World Warriors, by and large, and quite a bit to relatively classic characters from Street Fighter 4 era and beyond that are well known and people like. It's a pretty good roster, right? I'd argue it's it's a much better launch roster than what they were looking at with Street Fighter V. Like, a lot better. And depending on how many characters actually make it in, I think a lot of people are looking at this character concept art and assuming that that's a launch roster. And I can tell you, I mean, at least how development works, there's a good chance that a majority or a chunk of those characters could be DLC. Does it have every character that I wanted? You know, like Sean and Dudley and stuff like that? It doesn't. I'm hoping that what I just mentioned is not the case. I'm hoping that some of those characters are not actually DLC, because you don't just start working on DLC post-launch of a game. You essentially have your budget up into launch, and then you have your DLC budget, and that's when the DLC budget kicks in and starts, you know, working on stuff. If that is a launch roster, fuck, man. I think that's way more than any of us were anticipating. But we don't know if all of this is exactly lining up yet. We don't know if all of this is going to be true. Some stuff that has come from people does sound pretty legit. From what I understand, like Vergibin, right, is the dude that's leaking this shit, and he also was the one that leaked MVCI stuff. I don't know if he's the one that's been leaking all this really specific story stuff, right? Talking about Ken, talking about the motivations of some characters, talking about the motivations of Capcom, like, executives when it comes to the reveal of costumes and stuff, like why Cammy would not have her classic costume but then get it, you know. And it's like there were some very interesting choices. There were some very interesting things there, and some people are like, that's coming from 4chan. The source of some of this stuff is not all coming from one person. In fact, the guy that leaked like the roster and stuff like that, and a lot of what the roster looks like and the confirmations of it, a lot of what he said was true, but he was essentially explaining the fact that, yeah, it's going to have, you know, a guy that's like Yun and Yang. He's going to have a yellow costume. He's going to be like a Chinese martial artist. Like, he was essentially confirming a lot of what we saw. But then all this other stuff came out about Ken being like Ken like losing his family, and characters across the roster, like character motivations. At that point, I'm like, so where is that stuff coming from? So that's what I want to discuss today, right? Where the leaks are actually coming from, because Street Fighter 6 has been in development for a very long time, right? I might or might have not have heard of things about this game before the launch of this for a while, and just wondering if it eventually comes true, right? All I gotta say is that there was some story stuff next to like the Ken backstory. There was some story stuff next to like the list of stuff that's actually happening to some characters and shit like that. I saw one that was like exactly the opposite of what I've heard. And I can't say what I've heard, because I don't know if what I've heard is actually true or not, but polar opposite. And that information was right next to the stuff that is happening about like Ken and his character and why his character is the way it is. The only reason, to back it up, the only reason that we're essentially talking about this stuff right now is because Capcom possibly put out the greatest tweet in regards to this whole situation. So I have to give Capcom and their social media team and their marketing team credit. This situation sucks. For all the people involved that are working on the game, I have the biggest sympathy for everyone that had literally a year's worth of plans, and that all just got fucked. This is a creative industry where people have to figure out ways to make your games look cool and market them in ways that are cool, and try to get people on your side, because maybe you have a good game, but you just don't know how to show it, you know? And this is an entire issue with the entire industry. And luckily, Street Fighter 6 seems to be getting a relatively very warm reception. In fact, we're in a situation right now where the thing that I wanted the most 6 months ago, before we knew Street Fighter 6 was going to be a thing, the thing I wanted the most, I said a few times, and you guys might remember this, I just want people to like Capcom fighting games again. In turn, I want Capcom fighting games to prove themselves to the audience again. I want Capcom to work their ass off to get people back on their side, where we all enjoy the same shit, where we're all excited about the same thing again, without there being huge, horrible caveats of any new release of some big Capcom game thing, right? Where there's like, well, you know what, I guess I'm excited for the gameplay, but I gotta really break this thing down of like why all these things are bad, you know, and have like this huge conversation. I'm somebody that was at the epicenter of the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite launch, right? Where I was relatively defending the gameplay of the game, and regardless of my feelings about the gameplay, I was a mega shill, and it didn't matter what you essentially thought about it, right? Because the game was a piece of shit, didn't have the characters we want, and looked like ass. All true things. The gameplay was good, the game did look like shit, and most of the roster was ass. All things were true, but it wasn't possible to live somewhere in between there. You were either one end or the other. So as somebody that has the PTSD of that shit, right? Of being at the epicenter of that horrible fucking crater that was being a Capcom fan at that time, all I've wanted since then, and especially with the launch of Street Fighter V, right? All I've wanted since those games came out was just to get a Capcom fighting game that doesn't have a huge like asterisk next to it of some horrible goddamn thing that's happening as a result. Instead of like going after everybody, which it seemed like they might be doing earlier today when I was first making the video talking about the actual, like more than half the roster, we saw that there was like 14, 15 characters actually in screenshots that was confirmed from this leak stuff. Even Capcom was putting almost way too much information in their actual marketing material. They put out this earlier today. As residents of Metro City, we've all seen some things that we were not supposed to see, but we're all in this together. We appreciate the positive reactions and thank you for the support. And in the same way, the lead producer of the game, Nakayama-san, also had a tweet regarding the entire thing as well, with a very funny image as associated. We've seen you've all seen something you shouldn't, but we know you're already a part of Metro City. I'm happy if we walk together, and I'm grateful for so much positivity and positive reactions. Thank you for the support. This is the lead producer of the game, right? This guy is like the you guys, if you guys don't know, the directors usually aren't like the big corporate helm of games. It's producers in Japan. So the fact that they're taking it this way is good. And the reason that they're able to actually approach this situation with the fact that, man, our marketing efforts for the next year just got fucked, right? And this is like the worst thing that could possibly happen. However, everything looked really good. You know, the stuff that they showed, the characters they showed, the way the characters looked, and I had not seen it until yesterday. I don't know if you guys actually saw my impression when that shit dropped within minutes and somebody sent it to me, and I just saw like what was appearing to be almost the entire fucking roster, and I was just like, and I didn't want to show it on stream because once again, I didn't want to get like, you know, banned or some shit like that, which could happen. It's happened to me in the past with Capcom stuff. Is it safe now? It probably is safe now that I could show you guys clips and I can show you guys images and we can watch the videos of the things that were revealed. But you know what? Just for the sake of like posterity, I'm not going to do that. But I am going to talk about the situation because I can't help the fact that my Twitter has been an absolute trash fire for the past 24 hours of every single person, every single comment, every single thing everyone wants to know about everything is about the leak list and which characters are on it and what's going on. So I'm not going to show it, but I'm at least going to talk about my feelings on it a little bit. And obviously, among this leak list and what they have shown, there is a huge topic of conversation that is now being memed to absolute high heaven, right? If there is a Morbin Time meme that has now been associated with Street Fighter 6 and is no longer Wide Ryu, it is wifeless, homeless Ken. And it is very interesting to see how things are going for our Red Shoto guy in the vein of Street Fighter 6, where things are not looking up for this dude. So here's what I love. They really made this dude look different. Right. I like the fact that I didn't mind Ken's design in Street Fighter V. Right. I really didn't. But I did feel like they were trying a bit too hard. And I thought it was weird that they essentially kept Ryu looking identical from Street Fighter 4 and all previous versions into Street Fighter 5. Right. It was very weird that they did not end up going with like Hot Ryu as the main character. And Ryu looked the same, but they changed Ken completely. So did I absolutely love his design? I thought it was pretty good, except for the fact that obviously his hair and his face don't look like Ken at all. I would say, of all the characters that we could compare the new Ken to, the closest one is Paul Phoenix in Tekken 4, and the next one is Terry Bogard. At least from the character concept art. But there's some very interesting things in this character concept art that are intentional, because Ken does look generally sadder than he ever has, even in this concept art, right? Owen Wilson? No, a little bit not. So here's what I have to say. I think the concept art design is actually great. I think he looks really fucking cool. I don't know if the bomber jacket needs to be as big as it is, right? But it looks like Ken has gone through some shit. And that is genuinely a design decision that is made intentionally, right? You don't make design decisions on big multi-million-dollar fighting games and redesign characters that are iconic characters in ways that are just for this fuck of it, right? Just for the fuck of it. No, they do it for reasons like story-wise, character motivation, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, just by the character concept art, it looks like Ken has gone through some shit. I do think he looks cool. He looks like this could be a turn towards the violent Ken aspect of him, which would be weird because that's never been officially addressed in Capcom games outside of Ultra Street Fighter 2. I like it. I like it a lot. It's very rugged, you know? I don't think I love it. I don't think I absolutely love it, but it definitely looks like the dude has seen some shit and some stuff happen. That all sort of changes because there wasn't just the concept art of this character revealed in these leaks. There was also in-game actual shots, right? There was some crazy stuff that was shown off of Cammy, which looks fucking amazing. I'm actually blown away by the crappy ass footage and the low ass quality of it. How ridiculously cool the Cammy shit looked. Kind of blown away. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. And there was a very brief shot of Ken on a character select screen, so you could see what he looks like in the in-game model. And the in-game model does look a lot different. And unfortunately, because of potato quality, it's really hard to tell if he's cool looking or not. They definitely fixed his fucking hair. At least there's that, right? At least that's there. But I think his character model in-game, very similar to like Street Fighter 5, if not Street Fighter 4, looks a lot different than what his character concept art looks like. So I do think he looks cool, and I do like the fact that it looks different, but I'm not completely sold on the way Ken looks in-game. I will say that right now. I do think I like it a lot more than the general direction they went with Street Fighter 5, much more, but it is clearly not done, right? This game is a long way from being out, just because there is like some screenshots and essentially like some footage of some things. This game is still not gone through its polish phase yet. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to be changed. But I will say the in-game model of him looks even sadder than before. Which is kind of nuts. Further exemplifying the fact that Ken going into like homeless hobo, I don't give a shit anymore kind of mode, I've lost everything kind of thing. It appears to be lining up exactly with what the hell he looks like in game. There is some funny stuff on this character design that I don't think people have really looked at or like zoomed in on. People have said that he has like dog tags to represent, you know, something. That does not look like a dog tag, dude. It looks like a pendant. Right? Ken appears to be wearing a pendant of some kind around his neck. He also has another very specific character design choice, and it's the fact that he has a black belt, like a karate black belt or something, around his arm. And that usually, at least artistically, right? That is, we've literally already seen this in, what's it called? We've literally already seen this in popular fiction with characters. Like you literally see this with Cloud in Final Fantasy VII, like Advent Children, where he wears a band around his arm to signify that somebody has passed away. And that's usually what that means. When you wear a band around your arm, it's because somebody has passed away in some way. Ken's got that. So I don't know what this is signifying or what it is, but, or if that's exactly, he just could be lazy. Right? Ken just could have been smoking too much weed or some shit, and he forgot to put his belt around his arm. That could absolutely be what's happening. At least from the very direct representation of what an artist would do with these characters, and somebody like the very profound artists at Capcom, that would mean something, right? That would definitely mean that some character has passed away in Ken's life and he's fucked up. That doesn't as much line up with what everyone is talking about. So here's the thing. Let me go and actually get what everyone has told me is happening with Ken, which is a very different story. As there's a lot of memes, right? Ken is essentially like the meme lord. My ape NFT got fucked. I lost the kids. I lost the house. I lost the Porsche. Right, I lost the missus. I'm gonna try to get them back, Ryu. Don't worry, man. I used to wake up DP. Now I don't even want to wake up anymore. You know, that type of shit. I don't really feel sympathy for a fictional character, right? Which is why I feel like I do appreciate the fact that a lot of people are coming straight to me, like my brother, like my best friend or something like that is going through some shit. And like, you okay, man? Max, you okay, man? Like, I appreciate that. You know what? But this is a fictional character, right? And I mostly want to see if he's had his crazy kicks, right? Mostly me. I want to know if he can do crazy kicks. Like, please give me his crazy kicks back. Maybe his wife and kid aren't as important to me. But, you know, the gameplay stuff, I want him to be cool again. If there's one thing I want out of Ken more than anything, I just want him to look fucking cool again. If there was one character in the entire launch, in the entire base roster of Street Fighter that was actually the epitome of 90s cool in some ways, then yeah, it was Ken. Ken was like the coolest character, in my opinion, in Street Fighter 3 as well, which is the reason I ended up liking him in Third Strike a lot, right? But historically, I actually don't like Ken in that many games. I like him in Alpha 2. I like him in enough. Alpha 2, Third Strike, CVS 2. I think he's great in those games, right? Here is where it gets lined up, and this is essentially the meme that has become reality, which I don't know if I completely buy, right? I don't know if this lines up with what the character art is explaining or what is going on. But this definitely is practically a reality at this point because it's been memed to high heaven. And here it is. There were some leaks that came out, and I don't know the source of these because I don't think this was from the same person that actually made the main leaks for Street Fighter 6 that recently happened. I think this was from something else. Here's what they say. Ken wanted to pursue the same dream as Ryu. Eliza got sick of that shit and left Ken and took Mel. The dog tags you see he's wearing is actually Mel's, which are weird because Mel would definitely not be that old. Even Mel in the Street Fighter 3 series is like 10. Laura and Sean make cameos in the story as they're trying to get Ken back, but they also explain what's going on to the player. Luke tries to help Ken regain his fighting spirit. Many characters call Ken a washed up in their win quotes. Apparently, Ken, the other one was Ken has trouble doing his fiery Shoryuken. To me, this comes across as somebody saw the concept art and just started making shit up, right? This absolutely comes across as like, oh man, Ken looks like a homeless weirdo that's down on his luck. I'm gonna start making shit up. Like, and you know what? If this is the direction they take a character, good on you, Capcom. You know what? That is definitely that is a bold, very depressing direction to take for a character that I am shocked with. But guess what? There's also a shocking direction that they could take a character if the insinuation that somebody passed away to the actual concept art version of Ken, if a character passed away and Ken is like a different character now, he's essentially like going through some shit, that potentially is even darker, right? Either way, there's been a lot of like weird shit leaked, and it feels like people are just jumping at their opportunity to make leaks, you know? This 100% happens over the past 10 years. I have been making content where I have to identify what is maybe real. And yes, I do think that the concept art shit and what we've seen in this concept art shit and the actual videos, yes, that's real. It's obviously fucking real. But I've seen a lot of people jump at opportunities and they're like, hey, this is also what's happening. Hey, this is also what's happening. Hey, I heard from this guy that this is also happening. That happens almost in tandem and in the exact same moments that real leaks usually happen, right? People try to jump in and provide their own actual leaks. I feel like that's what's going on with all this stuff. I personally feel like this is what a lot of the other story stuff, there was some just crazy diatribe about how like Capcom specifically is making Cammy's alternate costume look bad because her butt's hanging out, and they are anticipating that fans are going to get mad that her alternate costume looks bad. I'm not even shitting you. That same story is in the same stuff as this shit. Anytime you get a story from somebody, and I've learned this over many years of figuring out what's real and what's not, anytime you get a story of something that tells you what somebody else is feeling or thinking, it's complete horseshit, right? Anytime you get some impression of like, oh yeah, the executives don't like this shit, or some head up at Capcom doesn't like this, so they're specifically making it bad. Anytime you hear that shit, complete bullshit. It's never true. It's never fucking true. The reason I think this is 100% bullshit, because I believe this. I actually thought this was real. And then I saw where this actually went back to. And I saw that there's some shit in it where it's like, oh yeah, man, the Capcom guys think this, they want specifically to make this bad. I'm like, you asked yourself out. You got too excited with your fake leaks, and now you're saying shit that definitely doesn't fucking line up. Because here's the thing. Cammy's classic costume looks really fucking good, right? There was a video of it. Cammy's classic costume looks crazy. Her badonkadonk will badankadank your eyeballs through your fucking head. It looks insane. I'm like, God damn, they really went there. Holy shit. I'm impressed. I was not expecting you guys to go that far, that shit, but holy moly. God damn. You're gonna sell some copies with that, motherfucker.